What are your thoughts on Ozempic? It's probably the same line of thinking, right?
It's a very similar line of thinking. I think that Ozempic,
Except it's probably got a lot more negative downsides than testosterone.
yeah. Well, the way that Ozempic works and a lot of these fat loss drugs work is that they inhibit your digestive system. So they literally will slow down how you digest food. Like you digest food through muscular contractions. Your digestive system is a combination of muscles and it contracts, like flexes to get the food down and through your gut. And these fat loss drugs slow down that digestion. And the downsides are that people experience like paralyzed intestines after being on these drugs for a certain period of time. So the downsides are just crazy. But the only thing I'm going to speak on Ozempic is based on the conversations I've had with people who are on Ozempic. And Ozempic, I'll bring business and sales into this. Ozempic is the one objection that I have not found a way to overcome.
That's interesting. Why not? And why is it an objection in the first place? Like, hey, I'm on Ozempic. Okay, I still need to change my default actions. I still need to live a healthier lifestyle, because even if you lose weight artificially through something like Ozempic, ideally you're going to be healthier if you're working out, if you're eating right, if you're not doing shit like.
But it's to what extent? It's like their goal is just to lose a couple pounds. Ozempic can help them do it without any of those things. It's probably where the objection lies.
That's where the objection comes from. But here's the crazy part. Like the people who I've talked to who are on Ozempic, they're not the guys who are 20 pounds overweight. They're not the guys who are 50 pounds overweight. They're not the guys who are 80 pounds overweight. They're the guys who are 100 plus pounds overweight. Like I had a conversation with somebody who was 500 plus pounds. 500 plus pounds. Okay. That is, you've lived a life of gluttony. You are a slave to eating if you're 500 plus pounds. You have no control over your habits whatsoever, over your behavior whatsoever, if you're 500 plus pounds.
That's the Zoom box is just completely full.
That bastard shows up.
They join with
bigger pieces of corn and me crap.
they join with two squares. I was just imagining the sales call.
Yeah. I was thinking that, Logan.
I'd be like,
I don't want to say it.
I'd be like, that'd be the first person where I'm like, actually, can you just turn your video off?
Yeah. It actually looks like the Zoom video thing where the guy's like literally like, you know how they have the little head up front and then the guy that like circles around the whole screen?
Yeah.
You know why Joe's really sweating bullets? Because we know that our potential future prospects are going to watch this. Okay. And here, hold on. This conversation is the overcome to Ozempic. Our potential future prospects are going to watch this. I'm going to send it to them, specifically if they're taking Ozempic, now that we're having this conversation. And the only way to help someone conclude that they need to stop Ozempic is to help them see the shame, the sheer shame in what person of what character has to rely on a drug to stop themselves from overeating. And that's their only solution. The only people who will not use Ozempic are the people who don't want to tell their sons the story of, sorry, son, I couldn't do it. I had to default to relying on the pharmaceutical industry because I had no control over being able to stop myself from eating a Twinkie. At the end of the night, you weren't worth it. I would rather eat that Twinkie than be here for you longer. The only people who are going to stay on Ozempic are the people who are okay with telling that story, because that's the story they're gonna have to tell. Dad, how'd you lose 100 pounds? Well, like the thought of being there for you wasn't enough. So I had to get on a drug that literally slowed down my digestive system.
And probably shorten the lifespan.
Probably shorten the lifespan.
It's such a new drug, we don't really know, but like,
yeah.
But wouldn't it be easier if you added like an objection handling technique that also made it worth joining your program if they are on Ozempic?
Yeah. So
because now you're competing against their doctor.
Yeah. So the only way would be to help them conclude that what happens after you get off Ozempic, or what happens if you're on for too long, right?
Yeah. Or they're probably thinking forever. Or no.
What's the consequence when you get off? Which I have actually had people join who like have gone off of Ozempic
and they gain the weight right back.
So they understand the consequence. And they're like, oh, I get it. I was on this drug. It didn't last. So I need a different solution. But the only way would be what happens if you stay on forever, which are the potential negative implications on your health or the story you have to tell your son when he asks you why you couldn't control yourself. Those are the only two negative downsides if you stay on forever. And then what happens when you get off? You gain all the weight back because your metabolism is absolutely plummeted because you're eating 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And you eat a normal amount of food and you gain all the way back. Those are the objection overcomes, right? There's so much less urgency on that than any other diet method.
Can I get on the calendar for a couple calls?
Yeah. What would you say?
Okay, so I would say you're on Ozempic. Did your doctor tell you about any of the downsides?
Okay. No.
Okay. So downsides are so, but you're not feeling any? You feel pretty good on it?
Yeah, so far.
Okay. Does it cost you any money to stay on Ozempic?
Yeah. I mean, insurance covers it right now, but I'm going to have to pay for it eventually.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's that long-term cost, also the potential downsides that we just talked about. Do you see yourself staying on that forever?
Well, no.
Okay. Well, happy you said that because obviously you don't want to rely on something like from the pharmaceutical industry to be able to be there for your family and whatnot. But this is just from my 15 conversations that I've had in the past 2 months with people that have gotten off Ozempic. And here's what happens. Because it doesn't fix the underlying issue, it just temporarily restricts your digestive system. The moment they get off of it, they gain all of the weight back, right? So it's either you stay on forever, you have these negative downsides that if they haven't come yet, that's good, but they will come at some point. You're kind of just playing the lottery with your health each and every time you take it. And if you get off, you're immediately going to gain the weight back. Unless the only 2 people that I've actually talked to that have gotten off and not had just like a terrible roller coaster ride with their health are the people that also adopted a healthier lifestyle. Because they changed those default actions, when they got off, even when their digestive system picked back up to a normal rate and they weren't reaching for the pantry every time they were stressed, they're actually completely fine. So I'm just letting you know because the vast majority of people who I've talked to that have gone off of it, their health is just temporarily fixed but permanently fucked. The only people that are actually fine when they do get off are the ones that make the efforts to change in the time that they're on Ozempic. So when they do get off, they're actually living a healthy lifestyle because that's really all it is. You're kind of just building a house of cards. And if you don't actually lay a strong foundation underneath it, everything's just going to shatter the moment you get off. Or you can fix your default actions. And then when you do get off, you could actually live a healthy lifestyle. So I would just try to align myself with like, hey, unless you want to stay on forever, and each and every month that you're on it, you're facing these horrible side effects.
Yeah.
Like
And it just becomes harder to get off because you're so used to it at that point.
I like that.
It's not like it's an addictive thing though. So it's probably easy to stop at any time.
It's not addictive.
But
any
what's
other
addictive
drug.
is like this new you that people are complimenting you on and the way you look and the way you feel.
Yeah, so I'm saying that new you only exists while you're taking a substance that has these downsides. So you're basically like look at this bowl of M&Ms, right? There's 1,000 M&Ms.
Where?
And two,
Show me.
and basically 2 of the M&Ms in there are poisonous. You're kind of just taking one M&M a day. You're fine so far, but like eventually you're probably going to run into one of those bad side effects, right? So eventually when you're fine, you're full, you don't need any more M&Ms, you don't need any more Ozempic, you want to get off. And unless you fix the underlying actions by the time you get off, you're fucked. That's like, because I think it's just easier because like if I don't...
Jeez,
Join client ascension.
Join client ascension.
Because like, no, because
Converted.
I'm looking at like if I was on Ozempic and I was on one of your sales calls, like you guys could be like, you could tell like an emotionally strong story. And I could be like, damn, I don't want to be that guy who has to tell us on this, that, and the third. But I get off the call. I have a follow-up appointment with my doctor the next 2 weeks. I found you on Twitter a couple days ago where I saw an ad, like
the trust is
just because of the way that we've been raised since we were born. Doctors know best. That's why they call it in sales the doctor method. Like you're never, like no matter how many case studies you have, it's almost impossible to compete with a doctor if you're giving health advice. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, that definitely.
Or very, very tough at least. So I'd rather just like align it so you're like, hey, you need this. So when you get off, which actually, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but I think it's actually medically truthful.
No, this is all medically accurate.
Yeah. So that would be the way that I would handle it.
Yeah.